right, everybody. Well, let's get rolling here. So welcome and good morning. I want to welcome you today to our AI learning series, the AI Advantage, unlock growth, cut costs, and boost productivity. And today we're going to be exploring how AI can help your organization scale up, be more productive, more efficient, and can help you realize some increased profitability. So I want to introduce myself. I'm Rob Schenk with Intelligent Technical Solutions. Here we specialize in helping small and medium-sized businesses thrive by managing and securing their technology. So just a couple of housekeeping notes here. Today's discussion is going to run about 35 minutes or so. We'll stick around for some questions at the end. This webinar will be recorded, and so you'll be able to review this at your convenience. Happy to take some questions. You'll see in your Zoom bar there a QA link there. Feel free to please go ahead and pop in any questions there. We'll go ahead and answer those towards the end. And here, we'll just keep moving here. Alrighty, presenters for today, you're going to notice a QR code in the lower right corner, and that's going to lead to a special offer page for attendees of the webinar. In case you happen to leave early, please go ahead and scan that for later. To introduce our special guest today, I'd like to welcome Asanka, also known as AK. He's an AI strategist here at Intelligent Technical Solutions. He has over 22 years of experience in software development and automation technologies. And also, I'd like to welcome Mike Rhea, Chief Revenue Officer over at ITS. Mike is expert at driving business growth through strategy and technology integration. And he also helps ensure that AI investments kind of meet but only also exceed long-term success expectations. Today, we're going to be exploring how AI can make a real difference in your business. And this is going to cut across industries. This is everything from healthcare to manufacturing to retail to construction. We'll share some insights and that you can take back and practical tips you can take back to your organization and get started on your AI journeys. So with that, I want to welcome AK and Mike, and welcome to the discussion today.
Thanks, Rob. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yep. Good to see you all.
All righty. So quick agenda for today. It just seems like, AI is one of those buzzwords that you just hear all over the place. You hear it at conferences, you hear from vendors, news cycle, et cetera. But what it comes down to it, most business leaders that we talk to are asking one really simple question. And that is, what does it really mean for my business? We built this webinar for people just like you. We want to get rid of all the fluff. What's the ROI? What's real? What's hype? And how do we get started without wasting money or time? And so that's what we're going to dive into today. All right, so let's talk about why AI matters. So Mike, maybe you can kind of set the tone a little bit. What's we hear about it all the time. Maybe you can frame this for us today.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. When I look at AI, well, let me take a back step here. So I get the privilege or the honor of sitting on our executive team. I get to attend our board meetings, and I get to hear how decisions are made. And at their core, businesses make decisions that either help them make money or save money. And so we hire certain people, and their job is to help make the company money. We implement processes or buy tools or do things to help the company save money. And it's always this process. And then we introduce AI. And the crazy thing is everyone's excited about AI, but no one's really buying AI. People use ChatGPT, but we haven't really figured out how to productize it. And we haven't figured out how to leverage AI to either make money or save money. And so what we want to show you today is AI should be a strategic move that you make. How do you leverage AI to either help your company make money or save money? Or here's the kicker now, how can we increase employee productivity by, let's say, 20 to 30% without creating employee burnout, right? We don't want to work our people to the ground. We just want to take the existing people we have and help them with tools and processes to be more productive. So I think, when we look at this, kind of, if we take a step back, if I were to simplify this, I would say the goal here is to create a repeatable process that creates a predictable outcome. And if we can leverage AI to create repeatable processes, then we can take that tool and create predictable outcomes, right? And that's our goal at ITS. Our hope is to leverage AI and automation to give you that same experience, right? But again, it's repeatable processes that you can do over and over and over again, and you know what that predictable outcome is going to be. That, to me, is the real benefit of AI and automation.
And Mike, we've had conversations where, we've talked about how leaders and organizations are really trying to grow your business, grow revenue. And then there's also, this concept of kind of profit erosion that often goes kind of unseen, internal inefficiencies and so forth. And maybe Mike, you can maybe expand on that a bit.
Yeah, I think a lot of leaders, like, myself, it's in my title, right? We're focused on revenue. But I think AI is most powerful in protecting your bottom line, right? Like, stopping the profit erosion. And so I think AI can help plug in some of those back office leaks, can keep companies from hemorrhaging money and losing a lot of money by incorporating certain AI strategies and automate process, like I said, that create those predictable outcomes.
Alrighty. Okay, so and maybe talk through some kind of real world examples of implementation along, potential to expect ROI. Kick off and share samples here.
Sure, Rob, happy to do so. So here's a real story to kick us off. A small business on that we worked with had just 6 people, and they were just paperwork piling up, invoices falling through the cracks, and purchase orders or stuck in email threads and things like that. And he was working late nights just to keep up. When I first met him, he told me, AK, AI is for big companies and not for a company like mine, because he had only 6 people. And he said, we can't afford. And that was the mindset, right? And what we did was we started small. We started creating a small pilot, nothing fancy, just, basic integrations, automations with AI. And within 6 months, we completed that. And that one pilot opened his eyes to what AI could really do. So he doubled down, and we automated an entire back office service for him, from invoices to purchase orders to reconciliation and things like that, saved hundreds of hours. And now he was able to reallocate his team to help grow in the business. And he told me afterwards, this is one of the best investments he has done, and he wished he had done it earlier. So that's a real story.
Yeah. So Mike, if you think about every decision you make, whether Mike, you want to talk about what's your position on this and what's some of the business case for AI?
Yeah, I think when you look at a business case, and I might sound like a broken record here, talking about repeatable process, I'm going to repeat the same things over and over, but like when you hire an employee, you buy a software, we implement a tool, we implement a process, right? Again, the goal is those things are designed to either help the company make money or save money. And I think AI fits in the same way, where when we implement AI, it's to either cut inefficiencies, eliminate error, really with the goal of creating a predictable ROI. And I was sharing this story earlier, and I'll share it with you guys. A friend of mine, Robert Croak, he started the company Silly Bands. A couple years ago, he bought a pizza shop in Florida. And this is a guy who's trying to figure out, I just acquired this business. How do I know how many ingredients I need to buy? Like, how much cheese do we need to buy for the shop? How much sauce do we need to buy? How much dough? What is the cost of one pizza? And he had no answers, because that pizza shop that he bought, they were just kind of winging it, right? They'd roll out the dough, they'd put as much sauce as they want on it, take handfuls of cheese, throw it on there, and each pizza had a different cost associated with it based on just human error, right? And so he started to look at AI and said, how can I create a repeatable process that gives me a predictable outcome of knowing exactly how much it costs to make a pizza? I know exactly how much it's going to cost to sell a pizza, so I know exactly what our profit is, so that I can predictably grow this pizza shop and grow this business. And so what he came up with is, we're gonna develop a spoon that's a certain size, and you fill up that spoon with tomato sauce, and that's the total amount of sauce you can use for that pizza. Then you're going to fill up this other spoon with cheese to the top, so it's a predictable amount of cheese, the same amount of cheese for each pizza. Well, now he can expand that across the entire number of pizzas that they've sold, and he has a predictable cost. And the reason he has a predictable, what we'll call outcome, is because he created a repeatable process that everyone could follow. In our world, we can leverage AI to create the same experience for ourselves. And we'll start to realize that by implementing these processes, we will uncover with you through an assessment where you're wasting money and all this money that you could save from implementing, again, a repeatable process. So fun story. I don't know if it makes you guys want to eat pizza, but fun little story.
Cool. Well, let's clear up some, myths versus reality. So, I've been hearing in the news, there's been some stories around, some like large companies starting to do some layoffs and so forth. So, does AI really mean that, are we cutting jobs? What's AI mean for the labor workforce?
Yeah, so now it depends on the company, that they're implementing AI. However, it's not necessarily about cutting jobs. One of the common questions I hear from SMB owners is that how can I get 20 to 30% more out of my existing staff so we can grow without adding additional headcount? That's the real question, right? Now, when it comes to technology and resources, almost every SMBs I meet is already using Microsoft 365. What many don't realize is that their license already includes some AI-driven tools already, right? So they're literally paying for them today, but not using them. And even when additional tools or license are needed for this automation, they're surprisingly affordable. But here's the key though. The tool is never the starting point. There are dozens of options out there when it comes to technologies and tools. What matters is identifying the problem first and then matching the right tool and technology to solve that problem. So that's why we always begin with an assessment, because that will give us the visibility in regards to what inefficiencies and repetitive work involves with this particular department or in this function area, so that we can look at what is the impact to the business. And then only we can look at, okay, how can we solve this? What are the systems and tools the companies is using already? Rather than replacing what they use, let's look at the capabilities of the existing toolkit and see how we might be able to automate and integrate, making sure everything is talking to each other and all that. So, but starting with the assessment is the right step to take.
Cool. So let's ground this into like real problems that leaders face. We talk about, we all do invoicing. We all do collections for payments. We do reconciliations. We do HR policies. So AK, can you talk me through some use cases that you've built and some of the results that clients have been seeing?
Yeah, sure. So whether you are in construction, professional services, healthcare, or manufacturing, these problems are exactly the same, right? With payable invoices, hundreds of invoices are coming to your inbox every month, every other week, and then somebody will have to enter them into the accounting system, right? You may have purchase orders. Somebody has to check the purchase order, reconcile the purchase orders with invoices. Most of the time, they were done manually. Some of you may have already automated, but that's an example, right? AI helps streamline the back office functions, especially mundane, repetitive tasks that nobody enjoys doing, right? Rob, let's walk through the demo that we have, so that will give us a better idea of the capabilities of AI.
Okay, so it's going. So,
all right. So now on the left-hand top, you can see 5 AI agents, right? So very top, you can see reconciliation agent, and you can see the next one, AP agent, which is accounts payable agent, and then material request agent, and then POD agent, proof of delivery, I'm sorry. Rob, can you play that? Is it playing already?
Yeah, it's going.
Okay. So now what I do here is with the reconciliation agent, I will ask questions, right? This is like you're having your own team members. I'll ask, hey, show me invoices that are ready to process. I can chat on the right, and it gives me within seconds, these are the 3 invoices that are ready to process, meaning that the amount of the invoice equals to the purchase order amount, right? So for example, let's pull that one of those purchase orders. As you can see, the total is 7,507.50. Now let's open the corresponding invoice of that purchase order. So it's matching $7,507.50, right? So now let me ask, what are the POs that do not match with invoices? Now that's the critical question, right? So sometimes you may send the purchase order and vendor agrees to it, but by the time they send the invoice, rates might have changed. We don't know until we check, right? With the AI agent, it goes back to the database, we're looking at extracted data, it gives you within seconds, these are the POs that are not matching. Let's look at it, right? So if you look at the third item there, the unit price is $7.25. Now, let's look at the invoice of that corresponding purchase order. So that's $7.50. So there is a 25-cent difference. So that's why the AI agent came back and said, you will have to take a look at these 2 POs, they're not matching. Now imagine if you have 500-600 POs to do this manually. We're talking about days, right? With AI agent, now you can get it done within seconds. So that's the power of AI and how different AI agents work together to deliver this real world result.
Cool. So we've seen an AI pilot in action. So how does a company get started? Maybe Mike, you can kind of walk us through a little bit, like what, we talked about an assessment. You can talk through that a little bit.
Yeah, so I think, AK had mentioned that earlier as well, right? Like you don't start, everyone's trying to sell you an AI tool and the shiny object, but I don't personally believe that the success with AI starts with a tool. I think it starts with understanding your workflows, and I think an assessment is what's key here.
Yeah, so AK, can you walk us through like what does an assessment look like?
Yeah, sure. As I mentioned earlier, right, the tool is the last thing to start most of the time. And when we do the assessment, we look at, it means we sit down with your team to understand how do they do their day-to-day activities? What are the tools they're using? What are the bottlenecks that they come across? Whether they deal with a lot of Excel sheets and dealing with some systems that are not talking to each other and things like that. And from there, we analyze inefficiencies and quantify their impact on the business. And that's when we begin designing solutions that streamline operations and free up capacity. And here's what we consistently find. In almost every department, there are about 10 to 15 opportunities for automation. So together with the customer, we identify quick wins and align their immediate business goals. So once the priorities are clear, then we start working on the pilot project. Once we launch, then that pilot project creates momentum and build confidence, and from there we can scale, unlocking bigger gains step by step.
So Mike, tell me as a business owner, how do I quantify return on investment for, if I'm looking at AI for my business?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the most important question, right? Like all this sounds great. AI can do all these cool things. Sounds like I have to pay for something, so I'm going to pay a lot of money. And the only way, at least in my mind, the only way this makes sense if there's a tangible fiscal ROI. And so on average, we see about a 20 to 30%. Let me rephrase that. On average, we see about 20 to 30% more productivity without hiring. And I would say that's universal across all industries. So, and I think it's ethical also. right? Because, we could say, hey, how do we get more out of our employees? And then we just run them into the ground, right? Like I have a sales team. I could say, well, you just got to bang out more prospecting calls and you got to go meet with more people. But there's only a finite number of hours in a day, and there's only so much energy in a day. And so the reason I say AI is ethical is because we can remove these mundane menial tasks from them, and it frees employees from doing like the grunt work that is required in their job, and allows us to be paying them for items or things that they're doing that are more valuable, right? Let's call them more valuable tasks. And so I think it allows us to repurpose the talent that we have to have them focus on high value tasks that are more valuable for the business. So,
Yeah. AK, what about your thoughts on ROI?
Yeah, so here's a simple way to look at ROI and productivity. Imagine a task that takes about 20 clicks to complete, right? And if automation can reduce that 20 clicks into 10 clicks, that's in a simple way to look at it, that's 50% time saving, right? And now scale that up. If you're doing like 500 purchase orders or invoices a month, and if you can cut that time in half, the impact on your business isn't just efficiency, right? It's capacity, as Mike said, free up your resources and allocate them to do something, much more valuable, and cost saving and growth potential. Now, that's the kind of transformation AI can deliver.
Cool. So Mike, what are next steps if folks are interested in exploring AI for their business?
yeah, so our goal is to take this from being like talk and hype and like practically make it real for you. And so as AK, Rob, and maybe even myself have said it during this webinar, it starts with an assessment, right? Like really understanding what's going to be involved in, and rather, how are we going to implement AI into our business, right? We should be looking at each department and looking at these processes where there's inefficiencies and how can we fix those to create more productivity. And typically we do this, we call it an AI discovery assessment. And typically we do these assessments for $5,000. What we're doing is offering it to anyone who attended this webinar. We're offering it to you for $2,500, so 50% off. And the way you can sign up for that is there's a QR code on this slide here. You can either scan the QR code and book a time for that assessment, or you can email us at ai@itsasap.com. So either one will go to the same inbox. But again, what are we trying to accomplish with this assessment? All right, one, you're getting it for 50% off, which is awesome. But two, right, what are we trying to accomplish with the assessment is that we want to create a roadmap for you of where you can use AI, where you have inefficiencies in your current processes, and where AI and automation can help you. We want to prioritize those opportunities based on what has the biggest impact to the business. We want to document all of the opportunities where you have a chance to improve, and then we want to give you a overall ROI view. Because again, like if I was making this decision, okay, so I'm going to pay $2,500 for this assessment. Great, I got a good deal, but nothing has changed. I only paid for the assessment, so I'm only made aware of what the problem is. Right now, we got to fix the problem, and after I spend all that money, I want to see a 20 to 30% ROI, and that's what we're looking to show you. So I think your next step is just get clarity before you start spending money on tools. Everyone's trying to sell you something. Before you buy something, know the outcome that you're looking for, and again, get clarity on where you need to focus before you start spending money on shiny tools.
Yeah.
Just my opinion.
Yeah. So AK, what can, you talked about it, this assessment. Can you walk through like what the kind of one example deliverable it might be?
Yeah, sure. So we recently conducted an assessment of the purchasing and takeoff divisions at a roofing company. They had about 9 purchasing team members, and like many SMBs, they relied heavily on Excel sheets. Man, they had very complicated Excel sheets, and the spreadsheets over time had become incredibly complex. Some files contain about like 4,000 materials and pricing records, and had complex formulas that would frequently break when they add new materials and update pricing, etc. Now, if you look at this, the presentation, we had, after analyzing, as I mentioned before, when we sat down with these people, we identify these issues. As I mentioned, we came up with 10 to 15 challenges, business impact, and proposed solutions. But for this presentation, we picked 3. And because they have 9 people, most of them are going to their team leads to ask questions, right? And they had 2 team leads, and they were taking up like 2 to 3 hours a day for each team lead. And the business impact was, now the leads are losing 20 to 30 hours a week together, right? These are high value resources. And it's almost like having a full-time person. Now, what we proposed was utilize an AI-based chat assistant connected with their knowledge base. So rather than having to go to the lead to ask questions and get answers, now you can ask from AI. So AI will tap into the knowledge base, get the answer within seconds, right? And the next one was this Excel-based takeoff and estimation process. Like it was crazy. I mean, it's breaking, and people are spending a lot of time fixing it, and nobody knows who broke it and what was the last update that was done, because with Excel, version controlling is not there. It's hard to control, like who can edit, who can just view, like, the accessibility. And the impact was, because of that, as a roofing company, sometimes they have to do re-roofing that costing $10,000 a month. And that's, as Mike said before, that's how you erode the profit that's coming out of your profit, right? And then dry runs are same. They're costing them about $100 to $150 per dry run, and they have 7 to 8 dry runs a week, because it's a mid-sized roofing company. And we propose to automate these takeoff and estimations with the human approval. That's important to highlight. And the next one, also they're working with hundreds of builders, and each builder have their own SOP, all in Word, and they're using OneDrive to hold them. And that has its own issues, right? And some of these instructions are coming through emails, text messages, Teams chats, and things like it's very hard to kind of anybody to follow. And because of that, they miss certain things. And then the business impact is clear, the customer dissatisfaction, and they got some warnings from their good builders too, good partners. And what we proposed was utilize existing SharePoint environment and implement data governance to make sure they have a good control on who can edit, who can view, who can delete or whatever, right, for the maintenance. And all the things that are coming out from the emails, text messages, and Teams and things like that, we route them with AI to a single team who can make that decision to say, okay, should we update the SOP or not, right? That decision will be centralized now. So likewise, these are some of the things that we came up with. As I mentioned, it was a big list, like 10, 15 items there. So this is a sample assessment report.
Cool. All right, and then back to the, you can scan the QR code or go ahead and email us at ai@itsasap.com, and then that gets you into the queue for an assessment process. I guess with that in mind, we'll transition to some questions. We've had some questions come in here, guys. So let's open up the floor for some questions. So one question is, realistically, how fast can I see some results? One of you guys want to take that one?
Yeah, I'll take it. You can usually see results in weeks, not years, certainly. A pilot project can start showing measurable impact within the first 30 to 60 days. The key is starting small, proving value, and then scale.
Cool. Let's see. What happens if we don't do anything with AI? Are we really at risk of being left behind? Or are we at risk of being left behind? You guys want to take that?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Yes, you are. If you ignore AI, you will fall behind. And the problem is you fall behind much faster than you would ignoring technology previously. I'll give you an example that I use often. If you're let's say you're interviewing somebody for a job, and part of their job requirement is they need to do some research and prep work or whatever. And that interviewee says to you, "Yeah, I don't know how to use Google to search stuff." Right? You would think, what? Right? We would think that they're incompetent. Well, you could argue that right now we're in this era with AI, but let's say at least worst case 2 years from now, if you interview somebody and they don't know how to use or leverage AI to do their job better, they will be considered incompetent. And we have to keep that in mind, right? So if we don't leverage AI now or adopt it, we will fall behind because our competitors who are using AI today are operating faster, they're more efficient, they have sharper insights, they are more accurate with their information. And that gap of us not adopting it today just compounds really quickly, and it's much harder to get caught up in the future just because of how fast AI is developing. So.
Cool. Let's see what else we got here. What should I be asking my managers and team to find the best places to apply AI?
So I'll take that, Rob. Now, you can ask questions like, where are we spending too much time on repetitive tasks, right? Are there systems that are not talking to each other? Because typically that means you have to enter data in one system and then you have to enter same set of data in another system, right? Or what processes slow them down or frustrate the team, right? And things like that. So simple questions, and those questions will allow them to think and come up with the answers. While we are bringing the answers, they will go through all these thinking steps, right? That will give them a better visibility in regards to what's going on. So typically that's a good way to start. And then we can look at, low-hanging fruit and things like that.
Cool. How do I know if AI is worth the time and money or just another distraction?
I can answer that quickly, Rob, as well. Now, look at the ROI. If automation frees up 20 to 30% of your team's time, that translates directly into capacity, cost savings, and growth opportunities, as we discussed before, right? AI isn't about just chasing trends. It's about solving real business problems. And if you can tie it to clear outcomes, in my opinion, it's absolutely worth it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I would just add in, Rob,
Yeah.
that's the key, right? Is that knowing all the capabilities of AI makes it a distraction because it's shiny and it's cool, but we as business leaders have to tie AI to a business outcome. What are we trying to accomplish? And once we're doing that, then it's a focused effort. It's not a distraction. So.
Makes sense. Another question came in. We use an agency management system to manage our clients and accounting processes. Is that something that you could work with?
I'm gonna get it to you, AK.
Yeah, agency management system. What does that mean? Does it mean like outsourcing that function to a third-party agency? I'm not quite clear about it, Rob.
Yeah, so maybe it's maybe Keith, you want to chime in? It's an insurance agency. So an insurance agency management system. So that would maybe just be worth maybe a conversation, probably, just to get a little bit more information.
Yeah, so let me add something towards it, because I had a similar conversation a couple of weeks ago with an insurance agency here. And one of the things that they do from the workflow perspective, when they receive a lead, they will access their CRM. They have their, a portal they go to get quotes from other insurance providers. It's all integrated, but it's manual though. You have to put the same answers to a bunch of questions to that portal, and then get the answers from the portal, and then put into a particular structure and send that to the customer, right? So they're kind of doing a middleman processing work. But what we talk about is, how can we automate that whole process from taking the lead and then automatically push that to the portals, APIs, to get all the output, and with AI structure, create a report and propose to the customer again automatically, automating the whole loop. I don't know that whether that answered the question.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll just follow up with
Yeah.
Keith on that question. Alrighty. Let's see what else got. Another 2 questions here, looks like. I'm concerned about cybersecurity implications. How do I control my risk? Yeah, maybe I can talk about that one. So with
security expert, Rob, you got
yeah.
it.
So with regards to cybersecurity and AI, it's one of those things. There's a couple bits. One is that you want to make sure that the data that you have is clean, and then you have it has to be relatively well organized, and you have to make sure that your permissions and your permissions and your security permissions are structured properly. So the part of that is just kind of having depending on the type of information that's going to be accessed and integrated into the solution, you need to make sure that you're starting from clean data that's properly organized, segmented, and secured. From there, you can go ahead and make sure that you're not inadvertently giving more information to a particular group of users than you would want to. An example, hey, you probably don't want a little entry-level user being able to look up payroll data for leaders, for example, right? So you need to make sure that the structure is set up properly and your permissions are set. So that's an important part. Another part of it is making sure that you have an AI policy internally. What's acceptable use? What are accepted applications? Making sure that we're starting to bring up AI kind of literacy within the organization. So I think education also becomes really important here, because there's a lot of opportunities for us to expand, extend, become more productive, and it really becomes more of a kind of a training and literacy type exercise as well. So a couple components to that.
Yeah, Rob, let me add a couple of things to what you just said. Another thing that usually people don't think about when it comes to AI is data governance. As we touched on that before, who has access to data and where are we going to host the data and things like that. So that's extremely important. Also, the other thing is especially with AI, because there are hundreds of tools out there and pretty easy to get started with any of those tools, people start using those tools without looking into what do I already have. As I mentioned with Microsoft 365, you have a bunch of tools already. And whenever you bring another tool, you are increasing that threat landscape, right? Because you're exposing your data into another third-party tool. So just be mindful about it and look at the data governance first. So that will help you guys to kind of structure how you're going to manage data and how we can manage cybersecurity with it.
Yeah, and just to add, right? Like if you take company information and run it through ChatGPT just because you have good intentions, you're trying to do something better. Well, depending on your permissions and how you're set up, you may be putting your company information out to the World Wide Web, right? And then, we talk about making money and saving money. If you buy a tool and it has a bunch of features in it, and then you buy another tool and don't check to see if the features of this tool are already part of a tool you already have, right? We've all been through here. We're oversubscribed to tools. That's another waste, right? That's wasteful spend. And so again, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but that's why an assessment is important, right? You got to know where you're starting from and where the waste is coming from so that you can plug that hole. And then look at a roadmap to say, okay, now that we've plugged the gaps and we know where the issues are, how do we step by step go and fix them based on priority 1, priority 2, priority 3? So it's just easier when you have an expert doing it instead of trying to figure it out yourself.
Yep. One more question came in. I read an article recently about how 95% of AI projects fail. Why should we start now? And what do you think about that article?
I can
You guys
take
wanna
that,
take that?
Rob. Yeah. So this is an interesting question, by the way. It is not only for AI. It's across the board in any IT software projects. When they say 95% of the projects are failing, what they mean by that is it goes over budget, over time, and in some cases, especially in AI, the project failed to deliver the expected results. So that can happen, obviously. That's because they start without clear goals. As we mentioned before, following that proven process will almost guarantee your success because we start small. with clear goals and expectations. Because with the assessment, as you saw, you can pinpoint what is the problem we are trying to solve and how are we going to solve that. And then just focus on that and make it successful. And then start scaling, right? So that will help you to reduce your investment and the risk. At the same time, you can do a trial run, right? Do a pilot project and see how it goes. So that's where we see the success.
Sounds good. Mike, anything you want to add to that?
I'd agree, right? I think AK said earlier, what's your desired outcome, right? There's a book called Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. I want to say habit number 2 is begin with the end in mind. And again, right, there's so much like AI coming at us that we just buy, oh, that's cool, that's cool. We just buy it. I've done it myself. That's why I'm talking about this, right? Like, oh, this will really help my team. And then we buy it and then we never use it. Well, that's a failed investment, right? My CFO reminds me of that every time we pay for it. So it's just, what is the desired outcome that we want? What is the priority of that? What is the impact of not solving that on the business? And if you're not able to quantify that, again, go back to this assessment. This assessment will help you do that. And then, you track the progress of that, we'll call it project, against that desired outcome. And if you start with something small that has a reasonably high impact, you start to stack up little wins and you start to build momentum and you start to create a repeatable process for that predictable outcome. That was awesome how that came full circle. Cool. So
Cool. Makes sense. All righty, we'll just give it another couple seconds here, see if anybody else submits any other questions. Short of that, want to welcome or thank AK and Mike for their time and expertise, and thank everyone out there for listening and paying attention to the information here. And we're happy to help you guys out. Check us out at ai@itsasap.com. I'll go ahead and put that QR code back up there in case anybody has any questions there and wants to try that. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap things up for today. Next webinar is actually going to be coming up a week from today. It's going to be 24 hours. What to do if you have a cyber breach? What do you do in those first 24 hours? So super timely, like a lot of cyber attacks going out there right now. And what would you do if something happened to your organization? Practical steps to make sure that you are prepared and not left flat-footed. So with that, thank you very much. Appreciate your time and have a great rest of your day. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.